you need to take into account how the UI is laid out, how to create properties, how to run code at runtime, and more importantly, look at some of the ways in which you do those things inside of Xcode. Because when we hop over to Xamarin, things are a little bit different. So I want to make sure that we call out a lot of things that are going to be different when we head over to the Xamarin UI. All right, so I am pouring myself a cup of coffee, and then we will head straight into our Hello World. Let me know if I know what's missing. I am missing my stream labels. So I need to get those running. That was the last thing that really needed to be set up. That should update the last follower, the most recent follower down in the bottom corner. I just wanted to call out Mac the Sack 6. That was a follow that I received overnight, so that was interesting. Please, if you find this interesting as we move forward, toss a follow so that you can get notifications to know when I go live. I stream at least once a week. We're hoping to bump that up to 2 to 3 times a week pretty soon. But you can find me in this time slot right now for anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. That's 9 a.m. EDT. We are on the daylight time here in America now, so we have moved our clocks forward. If you're in another country and the clocks haven't moved, we have moved our clocks just to throw you off. So in this time slot, 9 a.m. EDT up until about 11:30. I have to cut off for a meeting around 11:30, but usually I run the full 2.5 hours during this time slot to show you how to do some cool stuff. I am a developer evangelist at a company called Twilio. We're a developer platform that makes it super easy for you to connect the people you care about using the tools and technologies that you already know in the apps that you're already building. And we'll talk more about that later, but let's dive straight into building some iOS. We're going to do a Hello World. So we're going to do a Hello World Xcode in Swift first. So the idea, thank you for the follow, Divine Dawn. The idea here is to start in Xcode. So we're going to do Xcode in Swift using an iPhone. We're not going to do anything fancy. The basic idea for this application is just to throw a label on screen, throw a button on screen, make sure they're connected up together, and then we'll write some code behind that. And then the idea is to then go and do that in C# over in Xamarin to see the difference. And then maybe if we're feeling completely savvy, we can also do Android while we're over in Xamarin, since it's a cross-platform solution. But let's get started with the iOS in Xcode. Yes, Worka, you do need a Mac for compiling to iOS. I'm just catching up on stream, catching it out of the corner of my eye. Yeah, you do need a Mac. There are ways. So there are ways. Thank you for the follow status Q4. There are absolutely ways to get around this. We can potentially talk about it later. They do skirt on legality. Thank you, Followlands, for the follow. All right, let's get started. Let's roll right into this guy. And what we are going to be rolling into, thank you for the follow just for me, is to hop over to this main storyboard file. This is our view for our project. It's pretty barren right now. There's absolutely nothing in it. That's fine. And just to verify that everything is working correctly right now, let's run that inside of an iPhone 5S simulator just to make sure everything's going on. Will this stream always be iOS apps? Worka asks in the chat. It will often be iOS. It will not always be iOS. I do a variety of different things. I do front-end web development. I also do some design. So you might see an Ember.js thing for the web at some point. I might do Android at some point. You might see some cross-platform stuff at some point. Today we're just going to do, well, maybe just do iOS. I might do something inside of Xamarin that's cross-platform, but the plan is to start in iOS. So definitely for today, it's going to be iOS. No promises that it's always going to be iOS, but I do iOS a lot because I think mobile programming is a great thing. Mostly mobile. I don't do any game dev. I would be happy to maybe jump in and try that at some point. That sounds like a barrel of monkeys. But yeah, maybe I'll dive in and do some games at some point. All right. What would you like to see, Warka 101? That would be my question. What exactly would you like to see? Because maybe I can stream that. Okay, so we need a few things here. Let me describe the UI. Here is how things are set up. You can hide these different sections of the screen. So we can hide the project navigator. We can hide this library panel, this inspector panel. There's also a panel at the bottom for when we're debugging. Okay. Yeah, Workus is mostly just new here, trying to figure out what's going on. Well, our team at Twilio, which I'll link here, has been doing a lot of Twitch streaming. So this is at /team/Twilio. So I'll link that in the chat. That is our team page. So there's a bunch of us on the developer evangelism team at Twilio that have been streaming different programming topics. Some of the guys are back-end web. Some of the guys are mobile. I'm mostly mobile on this stream, but I'm going to try to mix it up eventually here. Yeah, so that's our team. That's where you can find all of the stuff that we're doing. There are a bunch of game developers that stream on Creative as well. So I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the one guy's name, but he's building. He is building a startup game, which is pretty cool. You can look him up. I think he streams right after I'm done here. He's cool. Oh, and you stream game dev as well, so check out Warka if you're interested in the game streams. We are pushing programming tutorials here. And to continue on with my tutorial, we're going to bring out a label out into the center of the view here. And then we're also going to bring out a button, because I mentioned that we were going to do Everstream Spring or Hibernate. I have not done Java professionally for a long time. We do have some guys on the team that have done some recently on our blog. Maybe we can get someone to hop in and try some Spring or some Hibernate on stream. That would be fun. But I do not personally. It would be quite the challenge. But maybe I'll take that challenge on Follow-Up Lens. That might be fun to come in and try that out. Say hello to Twitch. So this is just a basic hello world. So we're gonna have a button. It's gonna change the text of the label. The label right now says label. That's super exciting. But what it's gonna say when we tap on the button is it's going to change to say hello Twitch Creative from Swift. We need to make sure. Let's even change the button so that it says from Swift. So since we're doing this from two different languages, let's just make sure we're clear on what part we're working on right now. This is Xcode. We are working in Swift. Thank you for the follow, Fubar83. So we are working from Swift for this one. Okay, so we've got a label, we've got a button, and one would think that we're good to go. We saw the simulators running earlier. Let's build and run this application and see. We also have some tutorials, Phil, I think that might be, I don't know if we used Spring for those. All right, we have our first problem. The first thing that we need to address within this application, and that's that the label and the button are chucked off the side of the screen here. That's not really what we want. Let's try to figure out what's going on here. If we take a look at one of the neat things inside of Xcode, one of the things that I think distinguishes Xcode as a UI, there's this thing called the Assistant Editor. I'm going to hide the project pane for a second. We don't really need it. I'm going to open the Assistant Editor, and what the Assistant Editor does is it gives me a side-by-side view. And in the mode that it's in currently, it's in this mode called Automatic. And in Automatic mode, depending on what I have open on the left-hand side of the screen, something else is going to open on the right-hand side of the screen that Xcode thinks belongs to it. In this case, it's absolutely right. We have a view controller open on the left inside of Interface Builder from a storyboard file. And the corresponding code file for that is this viewcontroller.swift file inside of our Hello World Xcode Swift project. So that makes sense. This is the perfect file for it to open in Assistant View, and we're going to use that a lot later. That is going to be super valuable for us when we hook up code from our view to this view controller file. But right now, what I wanted to show you inside of here is actually this preview pane. What this gives me is a view of our application as if it were running on an actual device. So we launched the simulator and we saw that things were chucked off to the side. We could run that on a device and we would see that things are chucked off to the side. But we don't even have to get that far. We can use preview. We can use preview to load, an iPhone 5.5 if we wanted to see what it looked like on a 6 Plus. We could load an iPad, even though this application isn't being designed for an iPad. We can see that it actually works in iPad. And the reason for that is the storyboard file that we're working with right now is what is called a universal storyboard. And a universal storyboard is a collection of views that work on any size device. And when we start talking about any size device, thank you, Carl Bright, for the follow. When we start talking about any size device, we need to tell Xcode how it should lay things out when the device size changes. Thank you, Dado 2012 for the follow. We need to tell Xcode how the layout should change when the view size changes. Thank you, 19 Cola, for the follow. And we haven't done that yet. We haven't actually told Xcode how we want these things laid out at all. And the way we can tell that is we actually have not specified any of what are called auto layout constraints. So it says right here, the selected views have no constraints. Thank you, Akbal35. For the follow. The selected views have no constraints at build time. Explicit left, top, width, and height constraints will be generated for the view. So it's going to take a guess. Essentially what Xcode is saying is, I don't know how you want to lay out these controls. I'm just going to guess. And as we've seen, we don't really like the way Xcode guesses things. It's going to assume, presumably it looks like it's going to assume the largest size screen possible, which is probably the iPad Pro at this point, and it's making constraints based on that size device. We don't really want that. We don't really want that at all. So let's say what we do want. What we do want is we want this label to be centered horizontally, and we want it to maintain distance from the top of the screen. And that's really easy to satisfy. All we need to do is grab our control key. Here's where wonkiness sets in. Grab our control key, drag towards the top of the screen, and let go. Then we can click here to set the vertical spacing to the top layout guide, or we could click here to center horizontally in the container. There's also ways to do this from these buttons down here, where we could say, we want this centered horizontally in the container. We click that, and we would say, add this constraint, and that will add our centering constraint. Usually I do that with the control drag, but I wanted to show you how you can do that from the buttons instead of the control drag. We're going to do control drag, though, we're going to do from this guy. So we'll do control drag up to the top, and we'll say we'll say vertical spacing to top layout guide. So we've told it where we want it horizontally. We want it centered. And then we've told it where we want it vertically. And yes, I absolutely agree with you. Auto layout is sometimes the bane of existence. I agree. For this, it's not going to be too bad. Not too bad at all. We might look at something a little more complicated later, which is fine. It does get quite a bit harder. I think Xcode has done a lot for us. Apple has done a lot for us in Xcode, giving us like the stack layout stuff. It makes it a little bit easier to do some of the things that we've had to do pretty difficultly in the past. But at this point, we have told the label where to be horizontally. So we've told it where it should be positioned in X space, and we've told it where it should be positioned in Y space by telling it to maintain some distance from the top. Let's tweak these values just a little bit to see how that works, because they're set to some weird stuff right now. So if I click the constraint, you can see it gets a shadow because it's selected. It shows up over here as a vertical space constraint, something we can work with. It's saying that the label's top should be equal to the top layout guide's bottom. What is this top layout guide? The top layout guide is essentially the top of the screen based on other controls that might be might be available at the top of the screen. So if we're inside of a navigation controller, so we've got that bar at the top of the screen that we can navigate forward and back inside of the application. If we have that up there, it actually pushes the whole view down. So we want a top layout guide that we can base that top constraint from, so that the label doesn't end up getting hidden underneath that top bar. We wouldn't want that. So that's why we're doing it based on the top layout guide. Now we need to do the same sort of thing for the button. I'm also going, now this time I'll do the centering from the control drag. So control drag, you see this blue, it highlights whatever you currently have selected. So I have the view selected, I let go inside of the view, and I say center horizontally in container. Why container? Well, if we take a look at the scene, you'll see that the button is inside of a thing called view. That's what we just did the control drag and dropped on top of. So it's saying, you've dropped on the container, what do you want to do inside of the container? And what we told it was, we want it centered horizontally. Now you'll notice we have this big red line. Thank you, assailants, for the follow. We have this big red line with this big red box. And we have this tiny, but not invisible, red arrow up at the top of the view controller's scene. And if I click this, we can actually see what's going on. And what it's telling us is that a few things. Well, the label is misplaced. So we could see that if we select the label, we have this orange box, orange solid outline box, and we have this dotted box around the label itself. The solid box is where we have drawn the label. So we drew the label to be this wide, but because we've told it to center, Xcode's going to be smart and it's going to set the width to the maximum amount of width it needs to contain the text. So this is the intrinsic width. And what Xcode is saying is you should really have this label, like I should be drawing the boundaries of this label where this dotted line is. We can fix that. We come down to this little triangle resolve auto layout issues guy down in the bottom, and we click him and we say update selected view frames. And that'll change the border inside of Xcode to just surround the label where it should be. That's cool. Thank you, Monk Gillard, for the follow. So now we need to address this problem. So we've got these red things going on, and they're screaming out something's wrong. And what they're saying is that the label, or the button in this case, the say hello to Twitch from Swift button, needs Y constraints. So we told it to center horizontally, but we never told it where it should exist vertically in the view. So what the end result is Xcode will guess. Xcode doesn't guess well. We saw that already. So we need to tell it explicitly. What I want it to do is I want it to maintain distance from this label vertically. So if I control drag from the button up to the label, and I tell it to maintain vertical spacing. Now the box goes orange, right? Everything's right. The problem here is that the X is like off by a pixel. That's not a big deal, but let's humor Xcode and resolve the frame issue. And now Xcode is confident that it knows where we want these things placed. We didn't change this constraint, so let's change this constraint to 20. I don't know what 34 is. Warka, are they normally tutorial type streams? We do a lot of tutorial type streams. I know that there are a few of us that have been planning longer term projects, and I think there is a strong possibility that I will be streaming later this afternoon for a project that may take a few streams. And that will not be tutorial, that will be completely blank file starting from scratch. I'm building something for an upcoming conference and I need to block off some time to work on it, and I think the best way for me to do that is to sit in front of the cameras and completely block off that time. So that'll be a learning experience. That'll be inside of Xamarin, which is why I'm doing a little bit of a warm-up in Xamarin this morning, because that will at least allow people that were here this morning to have already seen sort of the basics for Xamarin before we dive into working with our new Twilio video SDK. So we have a chat SDK, and perhaps Phil can link these. That's twilio.com/IP-messaging, and we have a video SDK. That's twilio.com/video. That are our two cross-platform SDKs. So we have a chat SDK that works in JavaScript, iOS, and Android, and we have a video SDK that works in JavaScript, iOS, and Android as well. And they're completely cross-platform, and there's mobile SDKs, and we just had some success. We just had some great success with getting our chat and video SDKs working in Xamarin, and that's at Xamarin.com. If you're not familiar with Xamarin, Xamarin.com, and that is a cross-platform tool for building iOS and Android applications, also universal applications that work on Windows Phone, iOS, and Android, as well as soon, I believe, tablet devices as well, if that's not already there. And you do that from the C# language. They were recently purchased by Microsoft, so they are now a part of the Microsoft family. But that is a tool that I'm super familiar with. We are going to be at their conference, which is Xamarin Evolve, coming up in April. We're sponsoring there, and we're going to have a mini hack experience where you write some code to build a chat application, you build a video application, and you build it and bring it into your application. And you'll be able to chat with a device at the tester station to verify that you have completed the mini hack. So that's what I'm going to be building today. I need to build some server code on the Mac using ASP.NET, and I need to write some client code in iOS and Android inside of Xamarin that uses our SDK. So that's what I'll be building later. It's going to be a slightly longer term project. I also may, depending on how quickly that goes, there's another project that I've been hoping to work on. It's kind of secret right now, but I may stream bits and pieces of it that don't give away what it is. But yeah, I may do some of that later too. Let's keep rolling with this though. We need to get some code working here. And I'm going to go back to this assistant view. Notice in the assistant view though, before we move on, I want to get rid of this iPad. I don't know how to do that though. I would love to just chuck this guy off a cliff. Let's delete him. Okay, because he's a performance problem. Okay, so if we check the assistant view again, we have our phone, the 4-inch phone size. We have the 5.5-inch phone size. Just for completionist tactics, let's take a look at the 4.7-inch phone version as well. We'll notice that our auto layout constraints are all working, depending on doesn't matter what kind of device it is. It doesn't matter what orientation it's in. We're going to keep the label 20 from the top. We're going to keep the button 8 from the bottom of the label. Is it cool to ask for feedback on our projects in chat? Don't want to step on what you're doing. No, please ask questions. If I miss it, if I miss what's going on, that's what Phil's there for. And hopefully other people that have joined the chat, let us know who you are. Let us know what you're working on, and please pipe up. Tell me where you're from, actually, too. I would love to know what developers we have in chat and what city or what country they're from, just so we kind of get a gauge of who we're talking to. This time slot's interesting because we tend to pick up a lot of people from Europe and people on the East Coast that have just started their day. And as we move further into the stream, we start picking up more and more of the East Coasters, some of the East Coast US, some of the East Coast US, and as time moves, more and more people are awake. So it's great to know who is here and where they're from. But we have now got our UI straightened out. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that automatic view. Donzio is from Germany. Excellent. We've had several Germans in this chat in the past. That's awesome. Welcome. Just for clarification, I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I'm coming to you from what is, I believe today, sunny Philadelphia. I believe it's supposed to be about 67 degrees Fahrenheit today. So that's cool. Austria. I hear it's beautiful there. Cool. Phil in our chat is from London. He is on our team, and he's from London. Again, I'm from Philadelphia in the United States. Please let me know where you're from. If you haven't tossed a follow yet, please consider tossing me a follow and signing up for those notifications so that you know when I go live. I'm scheduled to go live once a week, currently from Wednesdays, but we're looking to bump that up quite a bit over time. Let's create a label here, or create an outlet here. So what did I do there? A lot of stuff happened all of a sudden, and I didn't describe what was going on. Why don't I just take a step back and let you know? I held down the control key. So we're back to that control drag thing. I held down the control key, and I dragged. And I got my blue arrow that we had from auto layout. And instead of doing blue in this case, bang 2121. Thanks for joining. Thank you for the follow. That's excellent. We are control dragging from the label over to the code, and we're going to drop in the code. And when we drop in the code, we get this popover, and this popover is asking us what we want to do. So I see you've dragged the label over to the code. Hey, thank you for the follow, Marticus11. I see you've dragged over to the code. What is it that you want to do? I have some options. So I'm creating a connection, and for a label, I can create something called an outlet. And an outlet will give me a property that I can access from code at runtime. Why don't I use Android? Kappa, kappa, kappa. I do sometimes. I actually have a, this project will be all Swift, yes, but the next one will be C# inside of Xamarin. But it will be all iOS. I do use Android. I have a Nexus 6P. I don't pick pick and choose my battles. I like to support both. But today we're doing iOS. I'm going to call this Hello Label, since we're doing Hello World. If you've just joined, this is a Hello World project, just to see the basics of iOS programming, and then we're going to hop over to Xamarin and see the basics of iOS programming there, and then we'll figure out what's going on from there, whether we're going to do more stuff in Xamarin or if we're going to come back and do more stuff in Xcode. North Carolina, awesome. So some more people from the East Coast. My boss Devin is down in North Carolina. It's nice down there too. I've been down there a bunch. So we now have access to something called an IB outlet. The IB outlet just references this label. If you notice, if I hover this thing that looks kind of like a breakpoint, it's actually a code point. Oh, yep, there's Devin in the chat. He's from North Carolina. Cool. So if I hover over this point right here, this is what's called a connection point. It looks kind of like a dark version of what would be a breakpoint if we added a breakpoint in some IDEs. So to distinguish this, which is a legacy dot that they've had for the longest time inside of what used to be called Project Builder, which is now Xcode. Used to have Interface Builder and Project Builder, and they were two separate apps. Imagine this drag and drop, this control drag and drop thing going from one application to another. Like, it was a nightmare. Now it's in the same tool. We get it in the inside of the same window, and that's pretty awesome. But to distinguish from this old legacy dot that looks like a traditional breakpoint from what breakpoints look like inside of Xcode, they've gone with this little notch that looks kind of like a bookmark for breakpoints. And we can drag and kill that, and it does the little poof thing that Macs do. But if we hover this connection point, you can see that the label is highlighted over on the left-hand side. And we could remove that connection by right-clicking on the label or control-clicking on the label, and you'll see that referencing outlet for this UI control right here. And if I click this X, the connection goes away. The connection point goes away, so it's not filled in anymore. So this is how you could create this in code first, and then connect it up. So I could do @IB outlet, weak var hello label as a UI label that auto unwraps, and then I could get a connection point to that from here. I'm just going to do the control draggy thing again, just so you can see that one more time. We'll create this hello label like so. And then there's that connection point. I could drag that from code to remake that connection. I could make that same connection to a different object, whatever you want to do. That's how you get access to the label at runtime. Now, what about the button? What do we want to do with the button? Well, with the button, I don't I don't really need access to the properties of the button for this application. So I could create an outlet for this button, and that would give me access to the button and all of its properties, including its color, its titles, all of that stuff. I could totally do that. But I don't really need that in this case. I just need to run some code. Thank you, Furious Finger, for the follow. I really don't need that right now. What I need is just some code to run when the button's pressed. Does anyone here know of someone who focuses on Android? So we have several people. Let me link this again. The Twitch. Thank you, Hannah Bajim, for the follow. I'm sure I butchered that, and I'm sorry for butchering that. Please let me know how to pronounce that correctly. I'm pretty sure I butchered that. This is our team at Twilio on Twitch, and what that is going to give you is access to the rest of the people on our team. We have a couple guys that are doing. We have a couple of people that are doing Android stuff. You'll probably see Marcos at some point do some Android streaming. We have some blog posts. Maybe Phil or Devin could link some blog posts that we've done in Android for our chat and video applications. I also do Android sometimes inside of Xamarin, so I do that from time to time as well. So yeah, we have a variety of people doing streams. It's just a matter of figuring out. Hit up Marcos or one of those guys. Send them a follow, send them a DM, and see what they're working on next. A bunch of those guys do this stuff. Let's create a button, or create an action for this button. So you'll notice when I do the drag over to code, if you look over on the right at the end of that long blue line connecting over to the code, it says insert outlet action or outlet collection. What we want this time is an action. What an action gives us is a button. Not a button, a function to run when the button is pressed. Or maybe not when it's pressed, but when other things happen. Maybe when they cancel a touch. So they've pressed the button, they've moved off of the button, and they've released, so we've got a touch cancel. Maybe you want to run some code when we have a touch cancel. Maybe you want to run some code when they keep their finger down, and it's, their finger's been down on the button forever, and Xcode keeps saying, they're still pressing it, they've pressed it so many times, this will keep running on touch down repeat. And you could use that for maybe a volume control or something like that. Thank you, Pagey47, for the follow. This will just keep repeating, so you could use it for volume controls or things like that. But what we want is touch up inside. That means someone pressed down on this button at some point. We've registered a touch, and they left their finger inside of the button, so they didn't move outside of it, and they released while they were still on the button. And that's the point when you want to fire your click code. And that's the default for creating an action. And we'll just say hello. And again, this is going to create an IB action. That IB action goes to void. Basically, it just disappears from this function later. And it's a function, so this is Swift. That's how we declare functions. It's called say hello. It has one parameter of type any object, which can be any object. In this case, it's going to be the button. So the sender represents the UI element that sent the event. And all we need to do inside of here to wrap this up before we move over and see what we can do inside of Xamarin, which I haven't used the latest version yet, so this could be fun. They've made a bunch of changes, and I need to get back in there, so that's why we're doing a warm-up this morning. Shh, don't tell anyone. Hello label. We're going to set the text on hello label equal to hello Twitch creative from Swift. Just so people watching later, if they skip ahead in the stream inside of the recording and they see, oh, look, he did the hello world thing, they'll know that it was the hello world part that we did inside of Swift. One last thing, just to clean this up a little bit, we will delete this text so that it's blank when the application starts, and we will run the application. So that's going to fire up inside of our simulator again. You'll notice that our auto layout constraints centering things are working. The button is going to move down in this case because I made the text empty instead of like maybe a blank space or something that would contain height, that's okay. When we click it, it'll move down to make room for the label that now has the text "Hello Twitch Creative" from Swift. So that's the basics, the absolute basics. If we rotate that, we can see that the auto layout constraints work in landscape as well. Those are the basics for iOS programming inside of Xcode. If anybody has any questions at this point with what we've done inside of iOS, wants me to go over something that I showed that maybe you didn't quite get, something that I need to hit one more time, but that's auto layout, and that's how that stuff works inside of Xcode. What I want to do now, what have I made? A bunch of things. I have a slew of things that you can take a look at on my GitHub profile. Also a bunch of blog posts on the Twilio blog, as well as in terms of apps, the only app that I have shipped to the App Store is one that I'm just not even going to name because it's a toy app that I wrote way back in 2009. Actually, what the heck? It's called iCoconut. I wrote it in 2009. I literally spent maybe an hour on it and shipped it. Anyways, that's just old stuff. It's water under the bridge. I am working on an iOS app right now. Hopefully that'll launch in about a month or so. Thank you for the follow, Alexi HD. All right, if there are no questions on the Xcode, oh geez, Phil, why did I mention that on stream? It's terrible. Phil, I'll send you a promo code. I will absolutely send you a promo code. What that does show, though, I will say, as much of a toy app as that application is, as much of a crappy off of Google Images image I used for the Coconut, what I would love for you to do is read the pros. So I think I sold that app well. Thank you, Yannick HLM. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what you could get away with in 2009 too. But anyways, this was the era where there were cowbell applications. There weren't fart applications because they weren't allowed on the store yet. That's how old that application is. But yeah, you could get away with a lot more back then than you can now, which is why I actually haven't updated it. I'm afraid they'll pull it if I don't add some functionality. So, anyways, that was just a joke between me and my brother. At one point, he said I would love to be able to tap a coconut and have it make a coconut horse sound. Lo and behold, at that time, there were none of those on the App Store. Now there's like 5, but I was in there first with a really, really, really terrible app. I didn't know very much about mobile programming at all. Yeah. Anyways, I wanted to share something super embarrassing. That is super embarrassing. My team, I believe, has been under the assumption that nobody on the team has shipped an app to the App Store. Just laying that out there, guys. I was there in 2009. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but it's there, and you're welcome to check it out. Maybe just maybe, we can toss a designer on that. We can get a new coconut horse image and add some of the features. There have been actual feature requests over time for this app. There have been actual feature requests over time for that application. I think if I strip out the Monty Python bits, there are Monty Python from the movie sound clips that will absolutely get just stripped out of the application if I try to update it. But maybe we can make it a modern application now, add some of those features that people wanted, get rid of the sound bites from the movie because they're not that important. And resubmit. I don't know. It would be a fun experiment. Thank you, a French geek, for the follow. Let's move on. We need to distract from the damage that I've caused here by talking about iCoconut. If you are not familiar, let's see. Let me toggle this for just a second while we get things shifted around. That's the wrong thing to toggle. I disappeared. I wanted that to disappear for just a sec because I'm going to fire up the browser and I want to make sure I don't show you anything that you don't need to see. All right, that's good. We'll bring that back live. All right, if you are not familiar with Xamarin, Xamarin is a cross-platform tool. It's a tool for building cross-platform applications. Actually, they're an entire platform at this point. They have a bunch of different products. So the Xamarin platform is a way to build iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows applications using the C# language. Xamarin Test Cloud is pretty awesome. It's a tool for testing your mobile applications. They have this entire bank of real physical devices that your applications, they don't have to be built in Xamarin, so you can build an iOS or an Android application using the native tools, using Xcode, using, Android Studio. You can use those tools using Swift and Java, build an application. They don't care. They're going to run your application. In the case of Android, they're going to run it on thousands of devices. What is this? Over 2,000 devices. Thank you. Whoa, Sureshka Smolyarchuk. I think I got that. Let me know. I probably butchered that name as well. But I'm gonna try every time. It's the names that are people's actual first and last names that are the hardest. You'd think these creative things that people come up with would be difficult. No, it's the actual names. But thank you for the follow. Let us know in chat where you're from. That's cool. So this will test your application on thousands of devices. If you've ever done anything on Android, you know that there are a wide variety of different screen sizes, different, you name it, all the different things, different screen sizes, different resolutions, different orientations supported, obviously landscape and portrait, but like the resolution can go crazy on those. This is going to test it on actual devices. Your code goes up to the cloud, they run it on all these different devices, and then you'll see the results. You'll see what happened. You can actually see some live results inside of their demo. I don't really want to do this. Yeah, we'll do it anyways. Twilio, 555, 555, 1234, and I currently test my apps, both automated and manual testing. Sure, they let me get away with the 555. Come on, guys. Ozo is now following. This is an actual test that's running on an application. We can see what it looks like. We can see all the different form factors it's being tested on and what those results are. We can take a look at an actual failure. So we come into phone, and there's a failure in here. There's a failure. So here's what the test is trying to do inside of this application. It's trying to verify an account invoice, saying I tap the menu button on the home screen, I tap the accounts button, then I tap the Bay Unified School District. And you can actually step through each one of these things. Which one is the failing device? We'll zoom in on it in a second when it fails. But they tap the menu button, then they tap the accounts button, and then they tap the Unified School District, and you can see the ones that errored. So this one, the Galaxy S4, actually crashed on device. This one has also failed. This one has also failed. And the rest of them looks like they worked. So you can see what it's supposed to do. Thank you, Batzek, for the follow. You can see that what it's supposed to do is display information for that specific school district. On these ones, when it failed, it actually just doesn't show anything. Right, so you can get details on the device that it's run on. This is an LG Optimus. We can see that the test failed. It was trying to get this element and it timed out. So that's interesting. This one actually crashed. So we can take a look at the device. It actually crashed. You can take a look at the console log at the time that it happened. Yeah, so you can actually see everything that's going on. Console log looks like it's very big for that one, but you can see that it failed on a specific device. And now I could look at the test results and I could come back and see why it failed, and then fix the test. I could re-upload to Test Cloud and it'll run on all the devices again. Maybe I don't have a Samsung Galaxy S4 running Android 4.4.2 sitting in my drawer of 2,000 devices. Xamarin does. So run it on their device and you can see if it works or not. So that's what Test Cloud is. Xamarin Insights gives you real-time monitoring for your applications. This will let you know who's using your applications, what kind of things they're doing. It's going to give you crash reports for the application, everything you could possibly want. Thank you, Perdelli, for the follow. For those of you that have just joined, those of you that have just followed, those of you that are tuning in for the first time, let me know in the chat where you are from and what kind of things you're working on, what kind of developers you are, what kind of languages are your favorite. Maybe toss a GitHub profile so we can see what you've done. And Phil just linked exactly what I was going to link, which is what we are working on today. We just, not that long ago, maybe 10 minutes ago, maybe 15 minutes ago, I feel like I've been talking a lot and I need to stop that. But we created this hello world using Swift, and now we're going to create this hello world using Xamarin in the C# language. So that's the plan right now. I was just talking about Xamarin and how they're kind of a platform at this point. They're a tool for building applications, but they're also a platform for testing applications, and they're a platform for figuring out what's going wrong inside of your applications. This is going to show you who's using your application, what they're doing in the application. Maybe they're not using maybe they're not using a specific feature of your application that you thought was going to be super popular. Maybe that's because they can't find it. So you're going to be able to see that using Xamarin Insights. You're going to see what features are being used, which ones aren't, how frequently they're being used, and maybe you can draw attention, run some tests to see maybe if I make it more obvious where that feature is, people will use it. That's the idea with Xamarin Insights. Figure out what's going right and wrong in your application and fix those things. What we're going to be using today, have I taken a look at Adobe XD? Oh my goodness. High on Mushroom. This is a great name, by the way. High on Mushroom asks me in the chat, have I taken a look at Adobe XD yet? I have, actually. I have not gotten a chance to use it yet. So when I found out that it had released, that the beta for it had released, I was sitting here on this Windows machine setting up some stuff for a stream. Thank you for the follow. And I went there and it was like, hey, you can't run this on Windows. We'd be happy to let you run it on a Mac. Clearly I have a Mac because that's what we're coding from, but I just haven't had a chance to install it yet. I love the idea though. I worked for a company called Infradistics that has a tool called Indigo Studio that I'll show real quick. That is a UX tool for prototyping applications. I actually built a prototype that ships with it, and I think this is a great tool for that sort of thing. I am curious to see what Adobe has been up to with that. I am going to take a look at that sometime this week. I do have some crazy work to catch up on. It's been an interesting couple of days, but I do plan to get to that eventually. As someone who does a lot of design development crossover type stuff, that is something I want to check out. It looks really cool. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is not Test Cloud or Insights. We're going to be looking at the Xamarin platform, which you can get from Xamarin.com. You create an account, and then you'll download the program, and you'll be able to write mobile applications using C#. Now, what's neat about using C# is that we get a lot of the different language features. What we get here is a lot of the language features you can get from C#, but we get everything that is in the platform for iOS and Android. So a lot of tools, like the Adobe tools for building mobile applications using JavaScript, a lot of these wrappers, they don't give you access to the full depth of the iOS platform or the Android platform. The problem is they don't have access to it. It's harder to get access to it. The way Xamarin works, is it binds. It does a process called binding, which takes the entire API, the API set from iOS and Android, and binds some code from C# from C# to either the Objective-C or Swift library API or the Java API from iOS or Android, so that the code that you write in C# calls the code, the actual code that the device runs on the iOS or Android platform. So you get access to everything. You get WatchKit, tvOS, you get Android Watch, you get Android TV, you get all of the different iOS devices, all of the different Android devices, and you also get access to Mac programming and Windows programming, all from the same language. So you can build code in C# from the business side. So you can write your model layer code, your business logic. You can write all of that in C# in a shared library that you can now use from iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac programming. I think that's pretty awesome. I'm also a C# developer, so I could be biased a little bit, but I think it's cool, and I think the tools that are built using this, or the tools that we'll use to build it, are pretty great too, and we'll take a look at that now. So that's showing you actually the tool that we're going to be using inside of their iOS designer. We've seen what it looks like in Xcode. Here's the idea, right? We have some shared C# app logic. We have some shared C# user interface code, and then we have this thin layer on top that corresponds to just the platform itself, and that's cool. I believe we just picked up a follower. We haven't gotten an alert yet. Looks like Ranswick has just followed. Thank you for the follow. So we have just this thin layer on top. Just the thin. Is Objective-C still relevant? These are good questions. So there's some good questions in the chat. Objective-C is still relevant because you're still going to run into projects using Objective-C. And you are still going to run into tutorials that are written in Objective-C. And the APIs at this point for Swift still correspond quite a bit to the way they used to be programmed. Thank you, Osnang Coach. Thank you for the follow. Are you from Australia? That's just a guess. You're still going to hit tutorials that are Objective-C. You're still going to hit APIs that are formatted the way they were formatted in Objective-C. So knowing how it is structured, thank you, ANFNI for the follow. I'm not going to pronounce that. That appears as NFNI, maybe? I don't know. That sounds funny. And thank you, 18 Rabbit, for the follow. So we've got a little bit of a follow train going on. Thank you for the follows. Please, everybody let me know where you are from. No, you're from Germany. Okay, so it was a guess. AUS, I don't know. It was a good guess. Thank you for tuning in from Germany. I am from the US. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay, so Apple is definitely moving to Swift. How do we know that Apple is moving to Swift? Well, Apple open sourced Swift, and I think the reason that they did, thank you Terabeat for the follow, I think the reason that they have moved to Swift, they're moving all of the APIs in Swift 3. So we're going to have Foundation at the core. Thank you SHB111 for the follow. We see that Apple is moving all their APIs for the most part, even down to Foundation, to a more Swift-like, thank you Rush Jr. 08. They're moving everything in Swift 3. Over to Swift, and also I have to think that one of the main things that they want to do, thank you, I'm Bowie for the follow. One of the main things that they want to do is that they want to be able to use Swift on the server, and I think that's the main reason that they got it working on Linux, because I think all of their servers at this point in-house are Linux. So that's the only thing I can think of, is that they really want to be able to do this from the server side so that they can hire the same people. Some of their people that are already working on Swift can start doing web development as well. Software programming diploma. What should I be doing in the meantime to practice and improve? From Australia. What do you want to program? I would say the best thing you can do is just dive right in and start building some sample applications. Do some online courses. Contribute to some open source projects that you find interesting. Thank you, Job Rapati, for the follow. Or is that Job Rapati? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I would say work on some sample projects, take some online courses in addition to the courses that you're taking for your diploma, and just start building some stuff. Find an open source project that you find interesting on GitHub and start contributing. Build an app and ship it to the App Store. All of these things are going to be great things for you down the road. So I've talked about what Xamarin is for, and we're going to be using Xamarin iOS. And Xamarin says that this is the best way to build native iOS applications. I think they're right. And here's the key features. Thank you, Injustice Z, for the follow. Here's the key things. You are shipping an actual iOS bundle to the App Store. Native platform binary running the native code that runs on the iOS devices. You have access to the entire API from Apple's iOS SDK. You can call you are calling existing Objective-C code from the platform, or Swift code, or whatever the native code is down the line. You are calling the native platform code. And if you have existing Objective-C code or existing Swift code, you can call that too, which is awesome. You can use Xamarin Studio or even Visual Studio if you're on Windows to build native watch applications and to edit the watch user interfaces, all from Xamarin Studio or Visual Studio. So it's gonna be a fun thing to do there. And the absolute best part, I think, is that they stay completely up to date. Same day support. So iOS 9.3 comes out pretty soon. We're guessing sometime later in March. 9.3 is going to come out, and on the same day that 9.3 comes out, it's going to be possible to build Xamarin applications. You could have done it during the beta. Every time there's a beta release of Xcode, Xamarin works with it. So you could completely stay lockstep, up to date the whole time, right up until the day of release. When Apple pulls the trigger on 9.3, your Xamarin application could already be using 9.3 features. That's how up to date they stay. So that's the justification of why to use it. That's sort of what you can do with it. Let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to create a new solution. So it's not projects, it's not workspaces. In the C# world, where Xamarin comes from, we call them solutions. If I hit new solution, I get a bunch of options. This is more options, I think, on the whole than we had in Xcode, but they are broken down into categories much the same way. Xamarin Forms. We're not going to do Xamarin Forms on this particular project, but Xamarin Forms, actually we could do Xamarin Forms, and we will, but we won't do it in the first one because I want to show you how the iOS designer works. But Xamarin Forms is a cross-platform project that is driven by the notion that you can write the UI code once for both iOS, Android, and Windows. And that's really awesome. You use a thing called XAML to lay out the UI, and you use C# to do the business logic, or you can do it all from code. I think that's really cool. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at that in a sec. We could also do a single view application. This is a setup that uses native instead of forms. This is a single view application that gives me one view, like we did in Xcode, one view for iOS, one view for Android, and then a shared library project where we could stick some business logic that would be available from both. We will use that in a second, I think, if we come back to doing cross-platform. What we're going to focus on for right now, though, is iOS. And what you'll notice if we go over to the iOS section right here, is that we get a lot of the exact same project types that we saw in Xcode. In fact, I'll just hop back over to Xcode real quick and say file new project so that we can compare what we have access to here. File new project, I go to iOS application, we get master detail, page, single view, tabbed, and game. If we come back over, we get single view, master detail, tabbed, page view. We even have a web view application. The web view application is intended to allow you to write your UIs using Razor templating. So that's a thing out of the ASP.NET world. So that's something that Xamarin has added. And then down here we have Sprite Kit and Game Kit, or Sprite Kit and Scene Kit. Sprite Kit and Scene Kit are both lumped under the same template here because you pick it on the next section. So if we hit next there, we say whether we want Scene Kit, Sprite Kit, OpenGL, or Metal. Over in Xamarin, we get those as individual options in this new solution dialog, but it's the same stuff. We have access to all the same templates. We even get one bonus one right here that's a web view application. So pretty cool. All right, so what should we do now? Well, we are going to create the single view application, the same kind of thing that we created over here in Xcode. I'll cancel out of this. Basically, we're going to create the label and the button, and we're going to attach some code, but we're going to see some differences in how we have to do things, or how we get to do things in C# versus Swift. And you'll notice one other thing, I kind of showed it there, but we can create an application in C#, or if you're a functional programmer and you're savvy to the F# language, you can create an application in F# as well. I'm not, so I'm going to do C#. We'll go to the next page, and it's going to ask us what we want to name this thing. notice these lovely dialogues. So if we go back to Xcode, I mean, not to belabor the point, but like, I think it's cool how much time they've spent on design. So if I go to the next page for this guy, it's just the standard boring dialogue. Over here, we can kind of see what we're working on, and it's even gonna like sort of let me know, yeah, you are doing it for tablet and phone, which is cool. We aren't doing it for both though. We're just gonna do it for iPad, and we're going to do iOS 9.2, and the app that we're gonna create is Hello World. Look at this little attention to detail here. It's showing us what it's going to look like underneath the icon. And this is going to be Hello World Xamarin. It's going to be cut off. We know that. And this is going to be com.company name. So we want com.twilio in this case. So we're creating com.twilio.hello world Xamarin. We'll hit next here. And it's going to give us some questions about where we want to stick these things. I'll put it in... what do I have? I have projects Twitch. I think it's project Twitch demos. We'll put it there. We're setting up a solution. We can use Git for version control. It's going to give us a Git ignore out of the box to get rid of a lot of the files that we don't need to see inside of Git. Here we can say whether we want to use Xamarin Insights or not, and we can say whether we want to use Xamarin Test Cloud or not. Sure, we'll check them both off, and we'll hit create. So that's going to create the files that we need to use those things that I showed you earlier, which is the test cloud and our Insights platform. And those are getting set up in a few different locations. We have Xamarin.calabash, let's start. And then we could set up some UI tests that would work inside of Xamarin Test Cloud. But what are we looking at here? So we need to talk a little bit about how Xamarin works before we dig in. One thing you're going to see as you look around different parts of the code sometimes, you will see things like this register call up at the top where it says register app delegate. What register app delegate means is that this app delegate class that is a subclass of UI application delegate, this app delegate class maps to, is bound to something in the Objective-C, well, not the Objective-C, the iOS runtime, what used to be called the Objective-C runtime. In the iOS runtime, there is an object called app delegate. And what this register call is saying is that this class right here is mapping to that class. And that class is app delegate in this case. We know what that looks like from our project, or actually we didn't look at it today, but we can see what that looks like in the Swift world by opening up appdelegate.swift. And this is your application class, essentially. It gives you access to things like when the application launched, when the application came back to the foreground, when it's going to the background, all of these sorts of things. That's what this class is. That's exactly what we get access to here. Let me see if I can bump the font here. We'll do this from the preferences dialog. We want fonts. Let's bump this a bit. Do I have source? Let's see. Let's see if we can get a better font in here too. I don't know if I've got all of my fonts shown up here. No, we'll just go with Menlo. It's fine. We'll do Menlo regular at 16. See if that's a little easier to read. Let me know if that's a little better to read. Again, we're going to build a hello world here inside of Xamarin. We're looking at the app delegate class right now to see how things are set up a bit. And just like we had over in our Xcode project, we have this viewcontroller.swift file. We have a viewcontroller.cs file. So this is our same exact class. This is the same equivalent class. This is the code that backs our view controller inside of our storyboard. So if we double click on main.storyboard, now we're going to see Xamarin Studios iOS Designer. And it's going to take a second to load up. but we'll let that load for a second. Does anybody have any questions so far on Xamarin while that loads in? It's going to look a little bit different than what we saw in Xcode, but there's a lot of similarities too. One thing you'll notice right away is that we still have this square any view, right? So we're still dealing with constraints. We have constraints here, and we have some convenience buttons that I think might help us out a little bit this time compared to what we had to do. Instead of those little buttons in the bottom right that we had inside of Xcode, this time we've got these buttons here. So we can add recommended constraints, we can remove existing constraints from a control, and we can also do update frames. So Phil says, I thought that the code looked quite similar. A bit more indentation, but mostly the same as Swift. Yeah, we'll take a look at that as we roll. Yeah, there's a lot of indentation because we've got some more nesting. So if we take a look here, we just start right at the class right off the bat. Here we start at the namespace level, and then there's another nest for the class and then another nest for the function. So there's like one more level of indentation. But the code's very similar. That's one thing you'll notice as you move through. The code's very similar. This is just a constructor. We only need this constructor because we're coming out of a storyboard file. But the view did load and did receive memory warning. These are the exact same things. This one's calling super, this one's calling base, same deal. And they're both calling view did load and did receive memory warning, same deal. They even have similar, very similar comments. So yeah, the code structure is familiar if you're coming from an iOS Objective-C or Swift background. The code's going to look very similar. Some of the processes are going to be different, but I think they're different in a good way. And maybe when we get to some of those steps, we'll come back and forth to look at how we had to do things in Xcode and how we get to do them in Xamarin in the same designer. So here's what the storyboard looks like in Xamarin. We have a toolbox, we have properties, and we have a document outline that shows us how things are structured, right? And then if we look at Xcode instead, and we look at the storyboard, and we pull out this panel here. I moved something in here, so let's put that back. We'll just put the label back to label. When we look in here, we have all these different inspectors, right? And we have all these different library panels. Those are just two. Oh, and then we also have this flyout guy over here that takes up some more space that gives us the document outline. Instead of taking up all of that space on screen, Xamarin has decided to collapse it into a toolbox, which has our controllers and objects, our controls, our data views, our gesture recognizers, windows and bars, all these different categories, right? And then they give us this properties box. So if we were to select something inside of here, all of the different properties, all of the constraints, all of that stuff, layout tab for the constraints, events tab for all of the different events, we get all of that inside of one compact view. So we can actually concentrate on the UI inside of the storyboard instead of having to deal with all these different panels coming from all over the place. All right, so what did we want to do? Much like we did, I'm going to expand these guys back out. Much like we did before over in Xcode, we're going to create a label and we're going to create a button. So we're going to do a label first, and we drag it out here like we did before. We get the same kind of positioning cues that we did before. They're a little, I would say, they're a little less obvious, slightly harder to work with. But on the whole, they give you the same cues. Those are coming out of the Apple Human Interface design guidelines as to where you would want to place things. And I think if we look at this point inside of layout, we can see where we're located in the view. Maybe we move this down to maybe move this up so it's only 60 from the top, that sort of thing, right? And we're centered, and that's kind of cool. Let's see for sake of argument, let's see what would happen if we select this right now. Hey, thank you, Larson1312, for the follow. Just a reminder on that follow that if you find this interesting, consider tossing me a follow. Click that little heart in the lower left and sign up for those stream alert notifications so that you'll know when I go live. The set schedule right now is once a week on Wednesday mornings, but that is subject to change, and I do stream more than just once a week, and the only way at this point that you're really going to know when I go live is if you follow and get those notifications. So if you want to see more of this kind of stuff on Twitch, you want to see more of this kind of stuff from me, toss a follow and sign up for those notifications. Also consider going to twitch.tv/team/Twilio. Let me link that in here. That is the rest of the team that I work on, all of their Twitch channels. You can go see what they're working on. They stream other times during the week as well. All right, so we've created our label. Let's see what would happen if we click this add recommended constraints. So what constraints did it give me? So if we come to layout, and we come down here, the constraints that it gave me are trailing space to super view. I don't love that. What we actually want is center, right? Thank you for the follow, Scarf Guy. What we actually want to do is center. So I'm going to just delete that one out of here, and we'll correct that one in a second. Top space is 60. That's fine. We do want that. Thank you, Dixie30, for the follow. So like, I'm not loving the options that it gave me so far, and that's okay. We don't necessarily need the height constraint, but we'll keep it. The problem with the height constraint is if the font size changed, it's not going to be exactly what we want. You want to know what's really fun? Is our control drag guy is still here. It didn't do what I wanted to do though. I wonder. This is where I haven't played too much lately with this tool, so I might be in the weeds a little bit. What do we want to do? We want to create. We want to create an auto layout constraint. Maybe we can do. I know the control drag is still there. We might have to go and take a look at what the options are. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to size this guy out. We're going to center it. Ah, man, I'm losing it. All right, what we want to do. I think I just had it. Yeah, I think that's what I want. I want these guys. I think these are the guys that I want. Yeah, okay. Let's try this again. Let's get rid of this button. Let's try this again. We don't want a control drag. I think it's the second click, so I remember this. I think it's the second click. This click gives me the sizing handles. This click gives me the constraints. And I think what I want is this guy. I know it's one of these. I thought it was the center dot. Could be wrong. Let's see what the layout says right now. Align, yeah, that was it. Align center X to super view. I did that twice. Okay, so that was the button. So when you click the second time, you get these little handles. And what I can do with these handles is I can say, I can drag those little handles to where I want them to be. So notice we have exactly what we had before, and I didn't have to do any control dragging. Let me do it one more time so that you can see it happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this label out. I missed a follow, but I have a latest follower notification. Thank you, Unrelenting Cody 1234 for that follow. All right, let's see what that process looks like. Remember, let's look in Xcode what we had to do. So to do that centering, I'll bring out a different button. We drop a button. I have to do this thing called control drag. So I hold down control drag and I drag to the thing that I want the constraint for, and I say center horizontally in container. What does center horizontally container look like for a label inside of Xamarin? Drag out the label. If I click on the label once, I get resizing handles. If I click on the label again, I get constraint handles. Thank you. I think I just welcome day Scarf Guy, but welcome a different Scarf Guy, 1488. I click again a second time. Thank you, Savvy, for the follow. I click a second time and I get these different, let me zoom in on it. I get these different types of handles. And these are, I don't know if they have a name for these, but I'm going to call them constraint handles. These are different constraints. So they're pin handles, I believe. And what I can do is I can drag this. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. No, I don't need to be back. Okay, I'm saying, for everybody to know, I am saying goodbye to my fiance.
Ask all your followers if it's okay if I put a silly hat on you.
She wants to know if it's okay if she puts a silly hat on me. I'm afraid to ask my followers and my viewers if it's okay if she puts a silly hat on me. I'm gonna let her do it. Thank you, Abhai96 Comvero. I don't know. I think that's what it is. I think a silly hat's incoming. I'm worried about this. Oh, good lord. Yep, we've done this. I'm not leaving this on for very long. Bye. Good luck with your meeting. All right, so there's the silly hat. We're gonna do this for like maybe 10 minutes. It's fine. We're going with the hat. I blame Amber. Bye, Amber. Love you. All right, we'll leave the silly hat on for a little bit. You guys can vote in chat if it's too ridiculous, but that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go with this hat for a little bit. Yeah, I don't think it's funny for someone who spends quite a bit of time on camera of her own, doing programming. She didn't want to come on camera for some reason. You guys can say hi to her some other time. In fact, if you want, you can go to twitch.tv/DJ Elia. That is Amber. She is the provider of silly hats. Amber. You can find us on Mondays. On Mondays we do a show called Cooking with Heat. It is a cooking show that we do with a bunch of our friends. So anyways, I am now wearing a silly hat. This will not last. I promise you, I will not be able to keep this on my head. But what we're doing right now is we're using these secondary things. So what we did was we clicked once. These are resize handles. We could use this to resize the label. If we click on the label again, we get these, I'm going to call them pin handlers now. We can drag these guys to create a spacing constraint. And notice when I hold down on the button, it gives me these different dotted lines that I can drag to. So if I drag to this dotted line, it's going to center the X position. It's going to center the X position. And you'll notice because of this same dotted orange line that we found before inside of Xcode that it now thinks the label should go there. And that's fine. It doesn't want to go there. We don't want it there. But we can drag this pin spacing constraint handler up to this green line. Notice it's giving us the top layout guide that we can drag to. So we're not doing control drags, none of that wonkiness. We're getting very good indicators about where we can drop to create constraints so that we are dragging and dropping with confidence, unlike what we were doing with the control drag before. And once we do those two things, once we create those two constraints, this align center X to super view and top space to view controller layout top guide. Thank you, another scarf guy, for the follow. Man, I feel like I should have a scarf, but I'm gonna get too warm. I'm kind of one of those people that runs hot, so I don't think that would work out for me. We can change this constraint to be something more like 60 from the top, which is what I want. And we go back to layout, and we click and click. And we've satisfied the constraints now. We have an X position, which is centered, and we have a Y position specified, which is distance from the top. And we can click on any of those to see what they actually look like. Cool. So that's what auto layout looks like in Xamarin. That was an adventure. Let's add our button now. We'll drag a button out here. We'll position it a safe distance away from the label, and we'll drop it. And just like we did before, we'll click on this guy again, and this time we're going to drag the top space. Thank you, the manly one. We're going to drag that to the bottom of the label and create that constraint, and then we are going to drag to that center line again from the center pin to center it. And once again, we've satisfied the constraints. No control dragging, no crazy pop-ups, no uncertainty while you were dragging, just straight up, everything works the way you expected it to once those pin handles were available by clicking the second time. I would say if there's one thing I would improve there, is it's not immediately obvious in that UI that you need to click a second time. Thank you, VODL3. It's not entirely obvious when you click when you have this button here, how I get to those constraints. I do have to click a second time to make that toggle. But once you do know where it is, it's way easier to use this than it is to do it the other way. The other way being grabbing this thing and knowing that I need to control drag, and that I need to control drag to the label, and then I still don't know what this means until I release, and then it gives me too many options. I don't know what any of these things mean. So yeah, it's just ugly. Here we actually can do all kinds of things, like I can drag this height to the label to say that these heights should stay the same. I could drag that. I could drag the center to here to say that the center should stay the same. Control drag is less obvious than click and then a second click to get these other controls. And then let's not even get into the fact that like seeing these indicators that I can drag to is way more obvious. Way more obvious. There's a little crosshair on the label. I can say that I want the centers to align for these two controls just by dragging to that green line. I can say that I want this to be in the center of the view by dragging to this line. Like, I think that's way more obvious. Hopefully I didn't actually create that. No, I didn't. And then we can come over and verify that the constraints are what we wanted them to be. I'm going to change this one to be 8. So we can say select and edit. And then we get this view inside of the widget panel. I can say that I actually just want that to be 8 to tighten it up just a little bit to the actual value that the human interface design guidelines specify, which is 8. And then we're good to go. The only things we need to do now is we need to change the text on this button. So that's actually down in this button section where it says button, and we'll say hello to Twitch from C# this time. So you'll notice that it's not auto-sizing this guy. So let's update the frames. There we go. Say hello to Twitch from C#. So that's awesome. That works. And that's cool. So we're at the point now where like we have all of that stuff set up correctly. Thank you, another Scarf Guy 1488. There's so many Scarf Guys. Like too many Scarf Guys. For me personally, it's too many scarves. I can't wear that many scarves. If we could put one scarf on me per Scarf Guy that we have following, that would be scary because I would be way roasting right now. Okay, let's talk about what the next step was in Xcode. If we go back to Xcode, the next thing that we did, well, first we should make sure that these auto layout constraints are working. So let's run this on a 5S 9.2 simulator. This works the same way that it worked over in Xcode. We just pick the target that we want. We pick the type of simulator that we want. We run the code. The simulator launches. If you're wondering like how debugging works in this Xamarin Studio thing, I'll show you how that works. Debugging is awesome in Xamarin Studio. We're just waiting for the debugger to connect to the iOS simulator. We're waiting actually for the simulator to launch. We're not there yet. It's fine. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. So what's got to happen in this case? So we don't have an app icon. That's fine. That's what this warning is. I don't really care so much about that. It's fine. We could make an app icon. Maybe we'll save that for later. We can make an app icon. Does anybody have any questions with what I've done so far while we wait for... I don't think the simulator is actually going to launch. I think the problem is I had it open already. There we go. Since I had it open already, I think it got lost closing it. There we go. So it should be a pretty quick process. That's the default splash screen. Xamarin's loaded up. Our controls are there. We can rotate. Our auto layout constraints are working. We did it. Fantastic. But nothing's happening when we click this button because we didn't do anything with it yet. Let's do that now. Okay, so if you remember from Xcode, now that we know that our constraints are working, what happened is it was still running over here. Okay, that's why things went bad. When we were doing this before over in Xcode, we had the storyboard open and we had assistant view open, and to get access to the label, this is the wrong file because it went to manual mode. If we had access to the file here, we were looking at this. Let's say we removed this line right here, and thank you Francie51 for the follow. We get rid of that label reference right there, and we control dragged. So this control drag thing again, we control dragged into the code. We dropped it. We created a label. And I'm just like, I don't love this, right? So we got a popover. We had a control drag. We had a popover. We had a concept called an outlet that we now have to understand. And there is a moment from the first Xamarin Evolve conference where they launched the iOS designer for Xamarin Studio, where Miguel Diacaza, the creator of Mono, got on stage and says, you know, usually in Xcode we would create this outlet. Since the beginning of time, developers have been asking, what the F is an outlet? He didn't say F, but I'll say F. And I agree with him. What's an outlet? Why do we care? Why are we control dragging to create this code point? It's just a property, right? Why do we have to jump through hoops and do this control drag wonkiness to make that happen? In Xamarin, this is a joy. So we click the label and we give it a name. Okay, so I'll do hello label, just like we did over in Xcode. Or actually, we didn't give it that name in Xcode. We gave the outlet a name when we created the outlet in code. Yeah, I do. You know what? Bulletproof. It's time for it to go. It's time for it to go. Now, there's going to be people crying out in chat. You got rid of the hat. I'm sure Amber will understand. If there are enough votes in chat, I'll put the hat back on. Whatever. If you want, I could create a straw poll. Maybe we'll do that next time. I'll create a straw poll. Bulletproof obviously missed the point where the hat appeared. My loving fiance Amber said before she left to go to a meeting that she was going to put she asked the chat if she could put a silly hat on my head, and then she did. Now the chat's going to complain because you said that the hat went away. It's fine. If there's enough votes in chat, the hat comes back. It's fine. Okay, so what we did over in Xcode, we created this label by control dragging, creating an outlet, giving it a name, hello label. I really mean that though. Okay, so if you want the hat to come back, type hat into the chat, and I'll watch that scroll by like crazy, and then count the vote. How'd you get 10 votes for the hat? There's no one voted. No one voted. So we'll do next time. We'll do a straw poll. I'll figure out how that works. I know there's a way for me to do straw poll. Yeah, if you type hat, you're good to go. So anyways, if hat appears enough times, we'll be good to go. Oh man, people are mistyping hat to hate. That's funny. I'm having a feeling there's going to be enough votes, but we'll get there in a second. I just want to see if we could get some interaction in the chat from a prompt. Yeah, typing fast will get you those kind of typos. What is this? The fan of scarf guys and ISIS. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! So we have 2 typos for hat. We have a bunch of hat votes. The hat will come back after we move forward with the code a little bit. It's fine. Oh, we've got a host. We've got ND Demon Wolf IV is hosting. Thank you for the host. Okay, so what we did in Xcode, like I said, control drag, create the outlet, name it Hello World, and a new follower, same ND Demon Wolf IV. Thank you for the follow. So we control dragged, we created that outlet, we named it Hello Label, all that just to get access to the label. That, you know, it's not the best way to do things. Over here, we created the label and we just gave the name Hello Label to it, right? Is that enough? Did we do enough? Let's see. If we go over to View Controller and we come down into View Did Load, which is what's going to run, once the view loads up, and we start typing. Hey, whoa! How about that? All we did is create a label on the storyboard. We created a label on the storyboard and we gave it a name, Hello Label. And it's auto-magically available inside of our view controller. Isn't that some cool stuff? So if you come from the land of control drag, right, we would have had to create this label, control drag over to some source code view, yada, 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 yada. No, create the label, name it Hello Label, come back over to your code, and it's already available. Didn't even build the project yet. All I've done is named the label. There is some magic going on. We'll take a look at what that magic is in just a second, right after I put on this hat. Cool. All right. Hat's back. Okay, so what is actually going on under the hood before we move on? If I go back to the storyboard, we did create this label. We did give it a name. And we saw that we had access to it right here. Hello label.text is equal to foo. And semicolons are required in C#. So what's going on here? Well, I showed you viewcontroller.cs, but I didn't call out that viewcontroller.cs has a little triangle disclosure over here on the left. That should be a pretty solid indication that there's something else going on. And if you're savvy to the way things work, did I lose? I think I misclicked on bullet earlier. I did not mean to do a long long timeout, but I guess I did. I didn't mean to hit that, but we try to keep the chat clean. Yeah. So what we're working with here is actually a code file called viewcontroller.designer.cs. And what this does is this sits behind as a partial class. So partial class in C# means that there's multiple different files that come together to form a single. Let me see if I can do this. What was it? Bulletproof. Yeah. Okay. That was a mistake on my end. Okay. So what we have here is a partial class. We have a partial class for viewcontroller.cs and viewcontroller.designer.cs. Now this .designer.cs file is automatically generated by Xamarin Studio. So as we create new views and we give them names, things will be generated. So it generated an outlet. Remember, we didn't want to know what an outlet was. We didn't really care what an outlet was. iOS still cares that there's an outlet. So we're creating a UI label that's an outlet called Hello Label. And all we had to do to get that was create a label and name it Hello Label. That happened all behind the scenes. It happened all within Xamarin Studio. And that's great. We could do the same thing for the button. So we could come in here and we could give the name to the button. We could say, we could call this Hello Button, right? And then that would give us the same thing inside of viewdesigner.cs. Another Scarf Guy. This one's from Visual Studio. I think Scarf Guy is a spammer. Nah, maybe not. Maybe it's a good person. It's a good person. Are you guys all creating new accounts called different kinds of Scarf Guys just because it's fun? That would be cool. Are you all different people? This is what I want to know. Have you ever seen all of the Scarf Guys in the same room at the same time? That's what I want to know. What IDE would you recommend for non-Mac users? Okay, so what I would recommend for non-Mac users, if you're on Windows, I would recommend Visual Studio. Visual Studio has free editions now that you can use, and you can do Xamarin from the free edition of Visual Studio. So you should check that out. That would be the way that I would roll for that. Notice that we created a Hello Button outlet just by giving Hello Button a name inside of the UI. One thing that you might know that we had to do last time was we had to control drag from the button to the code to create the button event. If you are coming from a C# background, aren't those significantly different in terms of coding language though? No. So you can do all kinds of different projects in Visual Studio. Does iOS support WebView like Android? Yes. Yes, ND Demon Wolf, it does. It absolutely does. Visual Studio supports a ton of different languages these days. We are dealing with an entirely different Microsoft than we have seen in the past. There are numerous things supported inside of Visual Studio. You should totally check it out. Cool. So if you come from a Microsoft development background, you might think this control drag stuff is just absolutely crazy. If you don't come from a Microsoft development background, you might think this control drag stuff is crazy. You're probably right. So what we can do instead is we can double click on the button. Wow. double click on the button. Amazing. Like circa Windows Forms 1.0 forever ago. Actually, circa before that, probably. Circa Visual Studio. What we can do this time is just double click the button. It drops us over to the code where it wants to put an event handler. We can drag up or we can use up and down to place it wherever we want it. We'll put it at the bottom. We can hit escape to say we don't want that. We can hit enter when we do want it. And it gives us this partial method for hello button touch up inside. The partial is coming from over here where it declares that the hello button touch up inside is an action for this button. So that's all the stuff that we had to do with control drag. You never need to look at this stuff. You never need to look at this designer.cs file. I'm only showing it to you so that you can see what's going on under the hood of Xamarin's auto creation for these different things. So you never need to look at this thing, and you really don't want to make manual changes in here because they will disappear. They will get overwritten, and that's a thing. But I wanted to show you that that partial method was created so that you know where this button action was coming from. And what we want to do in here is exactly what we did over in our Xcode file, which is to set the label. So hello world or hello label.text equal to hello Twitch creative from Xamarin. So this time we did Xamarin instead of Swift. If you remember from before, we actually had that label change to say hello from Swift. This time it's hello from Xamarin. This is actually bothering me at this point. It's too hot. It's very hot in here because it's warm outside. Sorry, I'm going to have to take it off. But we will consider different hats in the future. Maybe different scarves in the future. Whatever. But yes, basically Xamarin is handling binding from the C# world over to the iOS world with a tiny runtime that it installs with your application. It's able to run a subset of the .NET framework to call into iOS or Android code. And in this case, we're doing iOS code. And what we would do at this point is run the application, but I do want to show you that we do have access to the button as well up in view did load. So we could say, we could do hello button. Oh, I wanted to show you another way you could create this. So we created the button event this way. You also have access to the buttons event, so we could do hello button dot, and then we have access to a bunch of different things on the button. We could do something with let's see, what event do we want to do? We could do let's do touchdown repeat. So touchdown repeat, that'll happen if I continue to hold the button. This is going to let me show you how events work in C#, and it's also going to give me a place to hook a debugger breakpoint. So if we do plus equals, it gives us a bunch of different ways to hook up to this event. We'll do sender in E, and then write some code. Well, that's it. That's how we would create an event for touchdown repeat. And in here, I will do system.console.writeLine. Thank you for the follow. Okay, sorry for spamming. You know what? It's completely okay. It throws off the metrics a little bit, but that's fine. I'm glad you're having fun, Scarf Guy. No problem at all. No problem at all. Made it to the breakpoint. Cool, and I'm just going to stick a breakpoint on this line. I was mentioning before that the thing inside of Interface Builder or inside of Xcode looked a lot like a traditional breakpoint. It does, totally. This one looks like a bullseye, I guess. So that gives us a point to hook into if I hold down on the button. Thank you, Slightly Dead 99 for the follow. Again, following helps you know when I stream next. If you sign up for the notification that it prompts you for when you click follow, you'll get a nice handy notification the next time I go live. And I don't just stream in this Wednesday time slot, so this will let you know when it's going on. Okay, so let's run this code and see if our button is working for updating the text and also hitting this breakpoint if I hold down on the button. And if so, we have done our hello world in both Xcode and Xamarin, and I can stop for some questions at that point. So say hello from C#, click it, say hello Twitch Creative from Xamarin. So we have replicated our hello world, and we did so in a manner that had a lot less of the wonkiness that we saw in Xcode. So there wasn't any control dragging, there wasn't any outlets or actions being created by us. They were all being created by Xamarin. And if I hold down on this button, I think maybe that's not how touchdown repeat works. Oh, you know what? There it goes. It just took a second to hit the breakpoint. So I held down. Basically, to see how debugging works, you can stick a breakpoint, and we fall right into the breakpoint right there, and it's cool. That allows us to work with this. What's kind of cool is debugging as you build. So I gotta catch up on chat here real quick. Xamarin tooling brings compilation result back into the VS IDE. Yeah, that's true. What I can say is that it works well though. That Visual Studio debugging situation works well. So you have a Mac on your network somewhere that you target as a build host, and that works really easily now. Basically, you'll see what's on your network that's capable of being a build host. You'll give it a pin, and it connects right up. And past that point, like, you can buy a cheap Mac Mini. You can actually go back a couple years and buy anything that's Intel that's not completely dead slow. You can use as that build host. So you can find those pretty cheap if you go on eBay or like Craigslist or something. You can probably find an old Mac Mini pretty cheap, and hang that on your network somewhere. And yeah, you can totally use an iPhone as your target to do the testing. It works. So there's the document. Devin just linked the document for how to connect to a Mac. Make sure the Mac is 64-bit, as Slightly Dead 99 is pointing out. That is true. As long as you satisfy 64-bit, into 64-bit, you can go back like several years at this point. 64-bit Intel Mac Mini, running whatever the latest OS 10 that'll work on that machine. And you should be able to use that as a build host. And like I said, that's gonna be a fairly cheap investment, just to have as a build host. Probably cheaper than buying another test device, for instance. But anyways, that should allow you to do what that link that Devin just put into the chat, which is to set up the build host and use that as your proxy for testing Xamarin code in Windows on Visual Studio. Another Scarf guy. Cool. All right, so we made it to the breakpoint inside of touchdown repeat. We get full debugging. We can come in here and we have access to the hello label. We could say like set the text on hello label to foo while we're in the immediate window, except we can't do that because we're inside of like a static. We need the object reference and that sort of thing. But we have access to all the objects. We can see the call stack. We can do all the debugging that we've done previous. Slightly Dead's right. I think the 2011 Mac Mini or later would probably be a good target for the build host. In the Xamarin forums, Jim Pandas, thanks for the follow. I would say that the Xamarin developer forums are great, and there's probably a question on there somewhere that'll let you know what the best Mac Mini to use is for that. So I showed you what debugging looks like. Dankboy is now following. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, so we've seen how this process works. We've seen how the storyboard stuff works, how we can drag something like a label out onto our view and quickly set up constraints using the constraint handles. So I can set up some spacing from the bottom. I could set up that my center maps to the horizontal center of the container, and then that's like really quick and easy way to do. Yeah, the question was, can I use it as a build target, right? You can't build on the iPhone. Like you can't build the application on an iPhone, but you can use the iPhone as something to target from Visual Studio to test, just as a clarification. Yeah, it's not going to work just with an iPhone. Any specific reason why you ain't using the using system and just write console.writeline? Anything that keeps you, yeah, that's just me being dumb. So there, same code, still works. I didn't, using systems up there. It's cool. I'm explicit. I think every time I do console.writeline, just for I don't know, purposes for where using system isn't there, which it always is. I don't know. I've always written system.console.writeline. I think it's because I see it as a marker in my code. I don't usually write a whole lot of code that has system dot something. So when I see system dot, it triggers, oh, that's a thing that I put in there specifically for like I'm doing environment stuff or I'm doing logging. I think that's always just been a flag for me. So just personal preference, I guess. Yeah, so there's nothing technologically that would cause me to need to do that. Okay, so we saw the storyboard. We saw how we could do constraints inside the storyboard. We saw how the view controller maps the different things that we create inside of the view controller to the things that are going on in the runtime. We saw how the generation of this code happens as we name things inside of the storyboard, which is really cool. It saved us from a lot of the weirdness that we had inside of Xcode. It's also more succinct. There's less steps. There's less things you have to understand. And that's cool. So that's awesome. What could we do next? I wanted to show you what I'm gonna code for a little bit longer, and we'll take a look at some of the other project types inside of Xamarin. We go into new solution again, and we get a variety of different options as we saw before. One of those was cross-platform with something called Xamarin Forms. One of them was cross-platform with something called Native. What I want to take a look at is what this cross-platform native thing is next. So we click Next. We give this an app name again. We'll call this Hello Cross-Platform. Sure, why not? DMAC767, thank you for the follow. We'll call this Hello Cross-Platform. And then we will say that we want to target both Android and iOS, and we'll say that we want to use, let's do a portable class library. And say next. Portable class library is a library of code that you can use to share amongst your different projects, and you can give that portable class library to another developer and they can use it inside of their projects as well, as long as they are building the same set of from the same set of objects. So hello cross-platform, we're going to create a project within the solution directory. We're going to use Git for version control, and we'll set up the Xamarin Insights and Test Cloud, although we may not get around to using them. We'll see how that goes. Now you'll notice it created a bunch of different things, a bunch of different projects this time. We have this Hello Cross Platform project, and inside of Hello Cross Platform we have a single class that they gave to us called My Class. Okay, that's cool. And then we have these other projects. We have Droid and iOS. So Droid. Hey, Bulletproof. Sorry for that. I clicked the wrong button. I was just trying to clear out just the one text thing that was in there. I didn't mean to hit the big button, which was like zap. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that it just kind of like it zapped a little hard. Sorry about that. It was like a 10-minute timeout, I think. So the bot was a little rough on that. We've tweaked the settings a little bit for that. I apologize for that. Well, thank you for coming back. I could understand somebody not coming back after that. But you're back, and I'm happy you're back, and we won't have that happen again. So what we're doing right now is taking a look at a cross-platform project where we have Hello Cross-Platform, which is a portable class library that'll work on both iOS and Android. We have a project for Android and we have a project for iOS. We'll take a look at the iOS project first. We'll quickly set up a hello world in there, and then we'll pray that I am still good at doing Android inside of Xamarin. Let's just see how this goes. So go to our storyboard. We'll see that this is going to work just as it did before. I like the idea about what to put on top of your head. Yeah, I know. Yeah, your vote was registered, and I definitely counted that. Yeah, I had a hat on earlier too. That was fun. Fun a little bit. Crypheus TV, thank you for the follow. I bet you do, Captain Cats. I bet you do. Is this your 20th account? Anyways, we do have nice scarves. Okay, so what did the cross-platform project give us by default? It gave us this Hello World default. Let's take a look at what that looks like. If we look at viewcontroller.cs, int count equals 1, and then when we click on the button, here it's using the event mechanism for setting them up. It's doing touch up inside, set the title of the button to the number of times we've clicked it, and it sets the title. Okay, so that's kind of cool. We don't even have to write some code to see the cross-platform nature of this working. So let's take a look at what this looks like inside of the iOS simulator. My main nickname was Captain Cats. Cool. B Locoral is now following. Thank you for the follow. Again, that follow gives you an opportunity to see next time I go live. So if you sign up for those notifications, it will let you know when I go live on stream next. I stream at least once a week in this time slot for a couple of hours on Wednesdays. But I also stream at surprise other times. I am also a member of a cooking show over on twitch.tv/DJ Elia, which is my fiance. We do a cooking show on Monday nights. You have been waffled. Oh man, I've been waffled. Is now following. Okay, I've been waffled. Anyways, if you sign up for those follower notifications, you will know when I go live, and you can check out my next stream. Okay, so we're running on iOS. When we click the button, the text changes to the number of times it's been clicked. So Phil says he needs to see the cooking show as well. You can see all of those at twitch.tv/DJ Elia. That is Monday nights. Phil, it's probably while you're sleeping, but we do push them to YouTube. I will have to dig for Amber's YouTube account, but we have posted all of them there as well. So the iPhone's running, we click on the button, and the title changes to the number of times we've clicked the button. Yeah. What are we cooking? So we cook all kinds of stuff. Cooking, sir. Cooking. The mods are going to get angry. Mods will get real angry real fast. Let's be careful and keep it clean. So anyways, yeah, it's a cooking show. We cook with 2 or 3 of our friends every week, and that's how we roll. Anyways, so we have our iOS project running. Let's check out what the Droid project looks like. So we'll set that as the startup project. And we will run that. We have some options here, again, as we did before. I noticed that this is the wrong target. Let's see. Let's stop, because we're still running. Maybe that's why. We'll go to debug. This is the set project. Oh, okay, here we go. So what we want is we want Xamarin Android API 23. What this does is it launches, thank you, Solgom. I'll pronounce it that way. What this is going to run is, this is going to run the wrong thing. Why are we running emulator? Oh, man. Do I not have Xamarin Player? Come on. I thought they installed that by default now. Let's see. So that should be running not the emulator, but Xamarin Player. I'm wondering if Xamarin.com/player. Where is that? Xamarin player. This I thought was now built in. Let's download it. So what Android Player is instead of the nasty Android Android emulator or emulator. Yeah, the nasty Android emulator. This is going to be a more along the lines of a much more optimized x86 emulator that Xamarin has created to make things a lot better. And I thought it was installed by default, but apparently it is not. I think it's still in beta, so that's probably why not. So we'll close that. Let's see if we can run that. Xamarin Android Player. So instead of the nasty default built-in Android emulator, yeah, it hasn't been updated in a long time, long time. We have a Nexus 4 running KitKat. We don't want that. Let's see if we can get one on 23. Here's a Nexus 4 on Marshmallow. So you can see they release a bunch of different devices with a bunch of different frameworks. I have really fast internet, so I don't feel bad about doing this live. So you have to opt into the preview channel of build tools. I am in the preview channel of the build tools, so I'm kind of surprised. Can you use the Xamarin Player? Yeah, I presume you could because it's just going to show up as a device. So I think it does work inside of Android Studio as well. We'll say Nexus 4 Marshmallow. It's now installing. Yeah, so let's look in Xamarin. Maybe I didn't do that on this one. Check for updates. Oh, I'm in stable. You're right. I am on stable. That would be the problem. So let's not update anything in there right now. Yeah, if I was in alpha, I think the tools would have shown up. So that's fine. We downloaded it on our own. We'll run it. You can see how fast this boots up. Shows up via ADB. Yeah, Android Studio should see it fine. So this is what Xamarin Android Player looks like. This is a much better thing. Let's see. Bulletproof. Are you gaming as well? Otherwise, I was wondering if you were interested in swapping GPUs. No. So yeah, I do game. I game quite a bit. I play Rocket League. I play Hearthstone. Play a variety of different things. No, I'm cool with keeping my GTX 980 Ti. Okay, so that's running now. Booting up, showing off some nice OpenGL animations. Anyways, we now have that running. Let's see if we can target it. There it is. We can use that instead of the emulator that was there before. With an Android Studio, just via the plain SDK tools. Oh yeah. The new emulators. Okay, so we're gonna run that. It's gonna install a bunch of things, synchronize a bunch of things, and then it's gonna run. So now we have an Android application, and that is the cross-platform application for iOS. And here is the one, or here's the one for Android. Here is the one for iOS. They don't look exactly the same, obviously, but they have the same basic functionality. They're created in much the same way. We could tweak the UI. Bulletproof wants to trade GPUs with me. I'm not savvy to that. No. Anyways, yeah, I love my 980. My 980, it's great. The GTX 980 Ti is a great graphics card. Let's see, what else do I play that requires that? I've been playing. I want to start playing The Division, which is super performance intensive. I was playing Siege from that same Tom Clancy line. Yeah, those games are great with that GPU. So anyways, we've done this, but what we haven't done really is seen sort of what we could get from this class. So let's change this to public class person. Actually, no, we'll just go with my class. I love defaults. And then inside of here, I'm just gonna do like a public static int number of clicks. And what we could do is we could just create a property that would be accessed or accessible from the other view controller classes. So we could do my class dot number of clicks here. So here we could say that we want this to use my class dot number of clicks plus plus. So instead of using the file that's available or the variable that's available inside of this view controller, we could can you use Genymotion in Xamarin Studio? You absolutely can use Genymotion inside of Xamarin Studio. Thank you, Little Mini Panda, for the follow. So we created this property over in my class. It's lame, but given the project that they've created and the amount of time I have left, I'm going to go with that. So we're going to use that class's property to increment a variable inside of this shared class. We can do the exact same thing over in main activity. We can get rid of this count property. We can do the exact same thing in here. Instead of count plus plus, we do my class dot number of clicks plus plus. And we could also, just to see, thank you Sana Tiny Twitch for the follow. We could say let's add instead of saying clicks here, let's do this, and actually we'll do in here we can do another, we'll just do another public static. We'll do a string click text clicks. So we'll actually just pull clicks. So what we would be doing in here instead of just these lame properties is be building some shared business logic. And I'm just going to use the 0 in clicks. 0 will get incremented by the files, and then inside of here we'll just pull my class dot click text. So what this is going to say is number of clicks plus plus, so how many times we've clicked on it, and then clicks. And it's going to pull both of those from some shared file that both the iOS and Android applications have access to. So that's just illustrating the cross-platform shared class library notion. So my class dot click text. So again, this is going to pull the number of clicks and the string that says text, and that's the idea. That's how we can do cross-platform development. So we want to pull our Marshmallow guy inside of Xamarin Studio or Xamarin Android Player. We'll launch that again, and when we click again, now it's pulling the number and the text that says clicks. It's pulling those both from the shared the class library. Thank you Head15 for the follow. It's pulling it from the class library now instead of being written directly into the file, which means we now have a place to put code that both iOS and Android have access to inside of our solution, which is really cool because that means we can build all of the business logic for the application in C# that doesn't care what it's running on. So that's the idea. And then we can set this one as the startup project just to make sure that that's still working on iOS. We will run, let me stop that and run that on our 5S simulator. Fire the application back up over here. Thank you for the follow, BummerX1970. Where did the application go to? Here it is, Hello Cross Platform. Now we can see it. Both applications are pulling the number of clicks and the text that says clicks from a class library that we wrote in C# inside of this Hello Cross Platform project. So that's the basic idea for writing cross-platform stuff. We can build a completely different UI for iOS than we do for Android, or we could use something like Xamarin Forms, which maybe we can take a look at in a future stream, where we could write the UI once using something called XAML, which is a XML formatting language for specifying UIs. We could write the same code to build the UI for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and Windows 10, and it would at runtime render a platform accurate. Thank you for the follow. And it will render the correct UI depending on the platform, and they give you a whole list. Thank you, Cyber, for the follow. If we go to Xamarin and we go take a look at let's do a Google for Xamarin Forms. We go to Xamarin Forms. You can see the idea for Xamarin Forms, and something that we can maybe take a look at next time is building native UIs for iOS, Android, and Windows from a single code base. So what you end up doing is you use, this is what I was talking about. This is the XAML that you would write. So we say we want a tabbed page, and inside the tab page is a stack layout that has an entry for a username, an entry for a password, and a button for logging in. So this is your UI, and you specify this once in one place. So regardless of whether you're running on iOS, Android, or Windows Phone, you just set these things up. Thank you, Sibanak91 for the follow. You set these up one time, and what you're going to end up seeing here is you're going to see the same project rendered out for the different targets. And yeah, Xamarin Forms can do material design now, which is great because I don't like the old stuff. But anyways, we're not specifying that we want a UI button on iOS. We're not specifying that we want a button on Android. We're specifying that we want a button, a concept of a button that is the same. It is the same regardless of, what type of phone we're talking about. We just want a button. Yeah, they didn't update all the screenshots. It's fine. But yeah, they do the material design stuff. Anyways, so what we're doing here is like this entry thing. So we said we want an entry. An entry is a UI text view on iOS. It's an edit text on Android, and it's a text box on Windows. And they do that for you behind the scenes. So that's cool. And you still get, again, the entire access to the full APIs. The full APIs on the platforms that you're building for. You're just doing a write once, run anywhere kind of thing. So you get all these different types of pages, you get all these different types of layouts, and you get all these different types of controls. And that's just what comes in the box. There's a bunch of other things that you can get from the Xamarin, Xamarin plugins? Let's look that up. I think it's Xamarin plugins. Yeah, GitHub, Xamarin/plugins, and these are different plugins that you can pull in that do cross-platform things. So the idea here is that the plugin APIs are libraries that you can bring into your project that work from all the different platforms, so iOS, and Android, and Windows. So there's a bunch of different things you can do: file system access, media access, messaging access, push notifications, sockets, text-to-speech, vibrate. All of these different plugins that are community contributed, they all work regardless of what platform they're running on because they've been written in that sort of platform agnostic sort of way. So they're great for bringing into a cross-platform application like we have here. Maybe in the next stream, we can use some of these plugins inside of a cross-platform Xamarin Forms application. I think that would be a great project to work on next time. But what we've done today, just to recap, we built a Hello World. We have an extra button in that Hello World, but we built a Hello World iOS application inside of Xcode. We took a look at how auto layout and outlet creation and action creation works inside of Xcode. And then we took a look at how that works in Xamarin Studio. We built the same, not this project, but the project we had open before. Look at the recent solutions, go back to Hello World Xamarin, that's fine, close the project. We built the same iOS application inside of Xamarin Studio using the iOS designer that Xamarin gives you. And then we have an extra label in this one. Extra button over in Xcode. We have an extra label over in Xamarin Studio. But we built the same exact application here. We saw how to get access to this label in code, all we had to do was give it a name. We didn't have to do control dragging. We just gave it a name, and then it was accessible in code. And for the button, all we had to do was double click the button to get access to the action for that button, which is great. Makes it super productive. It's a lot easier to get rolling in Xamarin. It's designed around developer productivity, and I think it does a great job at that. We also took a look at the different types of things that Xamarin offers as a platform. So we saw that they have a test cloud for testing on 2,000 plus devices. They have Xamarin Insights for seeing how your app is behaving when it crashes, or seeing what features are being used. What we didn't have a chance to look at today that I wanted to just share real quick is two things from Twilio that are Twilio that you might want to pay attention to. We have a chat SDK called IP messaging, so that's at twilio.com/IP-messaging, and this is going to get you JavaScript, iOS, and Android support for building chat applications. And then another thing that you should know about is twilio.com/video, which is a cross-platform peer-to-peer solution for building video chat applications. Thank you, LilMarsh17, for the follow. This video also works on JavaScript, iOS, and Android. And we have a bunch of blog posts out there. If you're interested in building chat applications, you can take a look at this blog post. If you're interested in looking at how to build video applications, I just recently released a Swift video application blog post for how to do that in Swift. Pretty soon I'll be releasing a couple of blog posts about how to do these things in Xamarin. And one more thing, before we run out of time, I wanted to let you know about something called Signal. Signal is a developer conference about communications, and we're bringing a lot of great speakers out, a lot of developers that want to tell you some stories about the things that they're building. We have a great lineup. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a thing called Bash at the end that is going to be a party that you just do not want to miss. We're going to be simulating launching rockets. There's just going to be a lot of great things going on. And unfortunately, our conversation there won't be complete without your voice. So I really would love for you to come out there. If you use this promo code that I will put into chat right now, this will give you 20% off your Signal ticket. That's going to be bschooly20. If you use that in your promo code, in the promo code spot, you will get 20% off of your Signal tickets. That is May 24th and 25th at Pier 27 in San Francisco, California. I really hope you'll come out and join us. It's going to be a blast. And like I said, it just really won't be the same unless you're there. So that's Signal. I linked you those blog posts, Xamarin.com if you're curious about learning more about Xamarin. I wanted to show, let's see, YouTube, was it Elia? Let's see if we can find her. This is Amber Gone. I wanted to get you guys the YouTube link. Okay, so it's /user/Elia. So if you wanted to check out any of those cooking shows that we mentioned earlier, this is where you can find those. She is also the bringer of the funky hat. I guess we should recap that I was at some point on this stream wearing this lovely hat. You can thank Elia. That's Amber. That's my fiance. She was the one that put this hat on my head earlier. But really, I just want to thank all of you that followed today. The list is too big to read out, but thank you for following. I hope you signed up for the notifications so that you can know when I go live. And I hope to see you guys when I turn the stream back on again, potentially later today, but definitely later this week. Thank you for stopping by. Until next time, happy coding.